Have you ever felt like the universe was testing you, as though every choice you made carried the kind of weight that could tear you apart if things went south? That's exactly how Ethan Cooper felt on the day he decided to walk into his own steakhouse as just another paying customer. He wasn't your typical owner, he was a man who had invested every spare dollar, all his energy, and countless late nights into creating something from the ground up. But on this particular day, he wasn't there to supervise deliveries or check up on staff. No, he came to see his restaurant the way a stranger might, stepping into the dining room with fresh eyes and an open mind. He pulled the hood of his sweatshirt over his baseball cap, making sure to stay inconspicuous as he pushed open the glass doors of Redwood Steakhouse. The familiar aroma of sizzling butter, fresh herbs, and USDA prime cuts washed over him. He paused near the entrance, letting nostalgia do its work. Years ago, Redwood was no more than a sketch on a notepad, just a crazy idea he'd had after quitting a dead-end job at a big-box store. He'd pictured a place where people could share not just a meal, but real warmth and community. Back then, all he had was a few $1,000s saved up, a battered pickup truck, and an unwavering belief that if you worked hard enough and treated people right, success would eventually find you. It took him months to find a decent location. He ended up leasing a rundown storefront that had previously been home to a failing cafe. He poured every ounce of savings into renovations, knocking down walls, installing new kitchen equipment, and hunting for the best ingredients. He slept in the office space above the restaurant for a while, just to save on rent. Friends said he was crazy, that opening a steakhouse in a small city was a gamble at best. But Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that Redwood Steakhouse was meant to be something special. Now, Redwood was bustling. He could see a handful of customers seated in comfortable wooden booths, each table adorned with cloth napkins and fresh-cut flowers. He approached the counter, trying to mask the adrenaline spike he felt. Would the employees recognize him? He usually wore a suit or at least a button-down when he came in for official business. Today, though, he looked like any other guy in his mid-30s, wearing jeans and a hoodie. "I'll have the 12-ounce ribeye, medium rare," he said, digging out a worn leather wallet that rarely saw the light of day. The young woman at the register, someone he didn't immediately recognize, nodded politely, handing him a receipt. "Thank you," he murmured, stepping aside. While he waited, Ethan allowed himself to drift back in time. He remembered Redwood's opening day like it was yesterday. They'd had only 3 servers on the floor, plus a single-line cook in the back. The place was packed with friends, family, and curious neighbors who'd heard rumors about a new steakhouse in town. Ethan had been so frazzled he forgot to eat that entire day. But when the last customer left, he'd locked the doors, collapsed onto a chair in the empty dining room, and felt a surge of pride. He'd done it, he'd brought Redwood to life. A quiet conversation snapped him back to the present. 2 employees behind the counter, a pair of teenage cashiers, were chatting in hushed tones. One was Emily, who had bright eyes and a quick smile. The other was Dylan, a timid kid who looked like he was still trying to figure out the ropes. Their voices carried a worried edge that made Ethan's ears perk up. "Have you heard about Carla?" Emily asked, her voice soft. "She's been doing triple shifts all month just to pay for her dad's medical bills." Dylan's shoulders slumped. "Yeah, I know. My older brother's in the same boat. He works 2 jobs and still can't catch a break. It's like no matter how hard you try, you're always one step behind." Ethan's gut twisted. Carla was one of the line cooks, she'd been with Redwood for nearly a year. He felt a twinge of shame that he didn't know more about her situation. Sure, he offered decent wages and tried to keep an open-door policy, but had he ever really listened to what his employees were going through? Emily sighed. "I just wish people higher up actually cared. Not just corporate owners in suits, but people who remember what it's like to struggle. Feels like everyone's out for themselves." Her words felt like a punch to the chest. Was she talking about him? He'd never worn a fancy suit to loom over his employees, but he had spent more time lately in his upstairs office, analyzing spreadsheets and profit margins, than on the floor chatting with staff. Maybe from their point of view, he was just another distant boss who only showed up to bark orders and collect checks. When his steak was ready, Ethan took the to-go box with a nod of thanks. He picked a small corner booth to sit down and eat, hoping to remain unnoticed. He cut into the ribeye and found it was cooked to perfection, juicy, pink in the center, seasoned just right. He'd always been proud of Redwood's quality, but right now, the flavors seemed muted by the guilt simmering inside him. He couldn't stop replaying Emily's comment about how people higher up never seemed to care. Was that who he'd become? After finishing half the meal, Ethan left quietly, stepping back into the brisk air outside. The city bustled around him, cars honking, people rushing in and out of shops, and the sun creeping lower on the horizon. He felt strangely detached, like he was watching the world through glass. That night, he hardly slept. He stared at the ceiling in his small apartment, questions spinning in his head. Had he gotten so wrapped up in making Redwood a financial success that he'd lost sight of the human side of things? The next morning, Ethan woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. He decided he would not be the type of boss who simply wrote paychecks and disappeared. He wanted to be the person who listened, who really saw the people behind the name tags. So, for the next few weeks, he changed his entire routine. Instead of sequestering himself in his office, he spent hours on the restaurant floor, bussing tables, checking on customers, even washing dishes alongside the kitchen crew. At first, his employees looked at him like he was an alien. Why is the boss wiping down tables? They probably wondered. Some were suspicious. Others were just plain confused. But gradually, those walls of skepticism began to crumble. Ethan found himself having real conversations, learning that Emily was saving up for college because her parents couldn't afford to help, and that Dylan was splitting his time between Redwood and caring for his younger sister after school. He discovered that Carla, the line cook, was under enormous pressure because her father's insurance wouldn't cover certain treatments. Every story broke his heart a little more. In those stories, Ethan recognized the struggles he once faced when Redwood was just a wild dream. He remembered scraping by on cheap instant noodles, skipping meals to save a few extra dollars, and spending his nights on a lumpy mattress in the upstairs office. He'd nearly forgotten that sense of desperation, the feeling that one missed paycheck could topple your entire life. One late afternoon, he called the entire staff together for an unscheduled meeting. The dining room was dimly lit, and the employees formed a hesitant circle around him. He could sense their apprehension. Nobody likes surprise meetings called by the boss. Taking a deep breath, Ethan cleared his throat, the hum of the HVAC system the only other sound. "Everyone," he began, "I owe you an apology. I've been so focused on Redwood's success that I forgot the reason I started this place, to create something meaningful for all of us. I've listened to your stories, your worries, and your dreams. And I realize I can do better. Starting next week, we're rolling out changes that will make a difference in your everyday lives." He paused, his voice trembling just a bit. "We're raising wages, adjusting schedules so you're not burning out, and introducing a bonus system for those who go above and beyond. I want Redwood to be more than a job, I want it to be a place you feel proud to work at." The room fell silent, as though the air itself had been sucked away. Then someone in the back, Ethan thought it might be Carla, started clapping. The applause spread until everyone was joining in, though some employees looked like they were on the verge of tears. Emily stepped forward, her voice shaking. "Why now?" she asked. "What changed?" Ethan looked her in the eye. "I did," he said simply. "I remembered who I used to be. And I remembered why Redwood matters." In the months that followed, Redwood transformed. The staff began to greet each other with genuine smiles, not the forced politeness you sometimes see in restaurants. Customers noticed the change, too. There was a warmth in the air, an authentic sense of teamwork that's hard to fake. Sales went up, not because they chased profit, but because people were drawn to the atmosphere of real camaraderie. Reviews poured in praising not just the food, though the steaks were as delicious as ever, but the kindness and enthusiasm of the servers and cooks. Ethan set up a small emergency fund for employees facing sudden hardships, and he started monthly check-ins where staff could voice concerns or pitch new ideas. He brought in a local nutritionist to talk about healthy eating on a budget, something that resonated with employees trying to stretch their paychecks. Dylan, the timid cashier, ended up leading a mini workshop on balancing work and school. Turns out he'd found a great system to juggle his schedule. Emily pitched an idea for a charity night, where a portion of the evening's proceeds would go to a local shelter. Ethan loved it and made it a monthly event. The local community took notice of Redwood's transformation. Local papers wrote articles highlighting how the steakhouse had evolved from a standard eatery into a beacon of generosity and employee empowerment. People flocked to see for themselves. And though Redwood was busier than ever, the staff seemed energized rather than overwhelmed. They were working for a place that cared, and it showed in everything they did. On a crisp Saturday afternoon, Ethan was standing at the hostess station when Carla approached him. She hesitated, glancing at the floor, then quietly said, "Thank you. My dad's doing a bit better now, and the extra hours aren't killing me anymore." Ethan felt his chest tighten. "You're welcome," he managed, voice low. "You deserve it. I'm just sorry it took me so long to realize what needed to be done." Carla offered a small smile, the kind that spoke volumes. "You got there in the end. That's what counts." Later that day, Ethan found himself at the register again, ordering a meal to go, this time without the disguise. He watched as Dylan punched in his order, a confident grin on the kid's face. Emily was at the next station, chatting cheerfully with a customer. The place bustled with the hum of busy tables, clinking silverware, and the smoky sweet scent of steaks on the grill. Yet there was a different vibe now, something intangible but powerful. Redwood felt like a family, not just a business. He took his food and found a seat in the corner, taking a moment to absorb it all. He thought back to that first day when he'd come in undercover, how lost and guilty he'd felt overhearing his employees' struggles. Now, he felt a surge of gratitude that he'd heard those words, words that stung, but also woke him up. He felt a sense of purpose he hadn't felt since Redwood first opened its doors. As he bit into his steak, the flavor was richer than he ever remembered. Maybe it was because Redwood had improved its sourcing and cooking techniques. Or maybe it was the taste of redemption, of knowing he'd made a difference for the people who kept this place alive. If there's one thing Ethan Cooper learned, it's that success doesn't hinge on how many dollars you earn or how many glowing reviews you collect. It's about the real, human connections you make along the way. When you choose to see the struggles of the people around you, to offer genuine kindness and empathy, you change not just their lives, but your own as well. So, what about you? Have you ever taken a moment to step back from your own ambitions and really look at the people in your orbit, the coworker who always seems tired, the friend who's juggling too many bills, the neighbor who's lost a job? Maybe, like Ethan, you'll find that offering a helping hand costs you very little but means the world to someone else. If this story resonates, share your thoughts below. And remember, no matter where you find yourself in this big world, a small act of kindness can create a ripple that stretches far beyond what you'll ever see.